Royal duty is not merely about rigid ceremonies or formal outward rituals. It is the solid foundation that preserves the image and prestige of the royal family before a global audience. Behind the splendor and grandeur of the palaces and the solemnity of official ceremonies lie complex stories of power, conflict and emotions concealed beneath the surface, understood only by those within the inner circle. Recently, at a charity event held at Windsor Castle, a tense moment sparked widespread speculation when Prince William displayed a cold and distant attitude toward Queen Camilla in front of numerous guests and the media. The silence in his actions cast a heavy and uneasy atmosphere, raising serious questions about the relationship between the heir to the throne and his stepmother, as well as the challenges King Charles faces in navigating between the two most important people in his life. If you find this story interesting, drop a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a 0. Don't forget to like, share the video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more exciting videos. Now let's dive into the story together. Windsor Castle gleamed under the glow of sparkling chandeliers as the measured footsteps of Britain's most powerful figures echoed through its grand halls. Outside, camera flashes fired in rapid bursts, luxury cars pulled up to the entrance, and guests stepped out in elegant gowns and sharp suits. On the surface, it seemed like just another royal event, glamorous, prestigious, flawlessly orchestrated. But for Queen Camilla, this night held a far deeper significance. It marked a defining moment, a public affirmation of her place within the monarchy. Yet behind the castle's ancient stone walls, something felt off. There was a subtle tension in the air, a quiet unease threading its way through the evening. And for those who were paying close attention, it was clear something beneath the polished surface was shifting. A silent rift had begun to open, one that could soon reshape how the world sees the royal family. According to longtime palace staff, the trouble began weeks before the event took place. Queen Camilla had submitted what seemed like a simple request to the event organizers. She wished for her eldest son, Tom Parker Bowles, to be invited. Tom, a well-known food writer, had attended many previous family gatherings and was no stranger to royal occasions. For Camilla, it was a perfectly reasonable and heartfelt request. She simply wanted her family to be together for a meaningful and significant evening. However, what Camilla didn't realize was that Prince William had taken note of the request and was deeply unsettled by it. As the heir apparent to the throne, William pays close attention to Camilla's every move in her role as queen. He had begun to see that she was increasingly doing things her own way rather than simply standing beside the king as a supportive royal consort. What especially alarmed him was her desire to include her own son in official royal events, a move that for William was the final straw. It signaled to him not just a shift in tone, but a challenge to the balance of power and tradition that he believed needed to be fiercely protected. According to experts well-versed in royal protocol, official events of this caliber are typically planned with strict adherence to long-standing traditions. Invitations are usually reserved for close blood relatives of the royal family and their spouses. But Tom is not a blood royal. He is Camilla's son from her first marriage prior to her union with King Charles. Inviting him to such a high-profile royal event could set a new precedent, one that risks breaking with centuries of carefully upheld customs and potentially altering the way royal functions are handled going forward. For that reason, William did not support the idea and quietly worked behind the scenes to block Camilla's request. This quiet standoff wasn't just about a guest list. It revealed far deeper divisions over power roles and influence within the royal family. It cast a shadow over palace life, prompting many to reassess relationships that once seemed stable but were clearly fraught with hidden tensions. And while the lights outside continued to shine brilliantly, illuminating the grandeur for the world to admire behind closed doors, quiet storms were brewing, threatening to crack the carefully preserved image of royal perfection that the public had come to revere. Inside the palace, Camilla tried to explain to those around her about Tom's work, his genuine love for the family, and how he had always chosen to stay out of the spotlight. She hoped that this would help others understand and accept him. However, William remained resolute. He refused to allow any exceptions or compromises. In his view, Tom had no place at this royal event. His presence would cross a line that should not be blurred. Camilla did not give up easily. She began quietly speaking with friends and trusted colleagues within the palace, hoping to gain their support. She even had a private conversation with King Charles, gently suggesting that Tom could attend discreetly without drawing attention, just to be there for her on this important night. But every proposal was firmly turned down. William stood his ground, unwavering and unyielding. The night of the event arrived. Guests began to file in each name, carefully checked against the official list. Everything appeared seamless. Cameras flashed polished smiles, lit up the grand halls, and the atmosphere was one of elegance and control. But when Tom Parker Bowles arrived at the gates of Windsor Castle, the tone abruptly shifted. The guards, polite yet firm, acting on explicit orders from above, informed him that he would not be allowed to enter. Tom, who simply wanted to support his mother, was left standing outside watching as other guests passed by, confused and heartbroken. The moment was both public and deeply personal. Inside the castle, Camilla saw it all unfold. She managed to hold her smile for the cameras, but those nearby could sense the sorrow behind her eyes. After years of painstaking effort to be accepted as part of the royal family, she now faced a painful reality. Her own son was not welcome at one of the most important events of her public life. William made it clear that he was now the head and held full responsibility for all decisions. He had the authority to decide who was allowed in and who would be denied entry. Camilla might wear the queen consort's crown, but she could not change the long-established rules or break the traditions that had been firmly set. The party went on as usual, filled with laughter music and formal speeches. Guests ate, drank, and enjoyed the festive atmosphere. Yet behind the scenes, no one could deny that a shift had taken place. William had made his first major move in the power struggle, and he had won. Experts see this as a pivotal moment for the royal family, marking a clear transfer of power to the younger generation. William not only respects traditional protocols, but is also beginning to shape new rules for the future. As the party ended and guests gradually departed, Camilla maintained a strong facade, smiling, waving, and thanking everyone warmly. Yet those close to her could easily sense the deep sorrow hidden behind that smile. The limited guest list was Camilla's first real loss as queen consort, and it might only be the beginning. William's plans are far from over, and they may continue to have far-reaching effects on Camilla's family in the days ahead. What drove William's calculated act of retaliation? The seeds of this royal conflict were sown on May 6, 2023, a day that was meant to be monumental, marking a triumphant milestone in Camilla's life. Westminster Abbey buzzed with anticipation as 2,000 distinguished guests gathered for King Charles's coronation. This historic ceremony, which had crowned English monarchs for nearly a millennium, was now set to bestow the title of Queen Consort upon Camilla. However, beneath that gilded veneer, a silent betrayal was unfolding, stirring turmoil at the heart of the monarchy. According to insider palace sources, Camilla was granted considerable control over the guest list for the coronation. This was not unusual, as tradition allows royal consorts to invite close family and friends to witness their momentous occasion. But Camilla's choices sent shockwaves through the royal family. She invited 20 members from her close circle, placing her son, Tom Parker Bowles, in a position of highest honor, while her daughter, Laura Lopes, was seated in a place of distinction. Friends from her life before joining the royal family were also invited to attend the sacred and prestigious ceremony, marking an unprecedented move within the hallowed halls of one of Britain's most revered institutions. For someone once considered an outsider, this was a deeply meaningful symbol. Camilla now held the power to decide who deserved to attend the monarchy's most momentous event. However, the controversy didn't revolve around who was invited, but rather who was excluded. Key figures, those who had dedicated years to rebuilding Camilla's public image, were completely absent from the guest list, leaving many within the royal circle to view this as an unacceptable act of disregard. Politicians who had publicly defended Camilla during her most turbulent times could only watch the coronation quietly from afar through television screens or news reports. Journalists and editors, those who helped rebuild her image from a heavily criticized figure into a symbol of respect and stature, were also excluded from the guest list. Not only that, even the staff members who had devotedly supported Camilla in adapting to royal life and its strict rules were quietly sidelined without anyone noticing. Whether this was a deliberate decision or an oversight, the message was clear. Camilla had reached the pinnacle of power within the royal family, and she no longer needed those who once helped her along the way. Prince William and Duchess Catherine couldn't ignore this shift. For years, they had been meticulously managing the royal family's public relations machinery, fully aware that the success of an ancient institution like the monarchy depends not only on authority, but also on loyalty, cohesion, and the ability to maintain long-standing relationships. Witnessing Camilla abandon those traditional values in favor of personal loyalties made them feel it was not only unwise, but also posed a hidden danger to the future of the entire royal family. The cracks within the royal family became increasingly visible and impossible to conceal on the very day of the coronation. As King Charles walked down the aisle of Westminster Abbey, the long-awaited moment prompted the entire congregation to bow their heads in reverence. This centuries-old tradition marks the nation's pause to honor the new monarch. Shortly after Queen Camilla entered wearing Queen Mary's crown atop her head and draped in a luxurious velvet robe symbolizing her status as the Queen Consort. However, the atmosphere that day was starkly different from previous royal ceremonies. Global leaders, top politicians, and members of the British elite stood silently, none bowing their heads to her. This silence created a heavy, tense mood, captured live on camera and replayed repeatedly across media channels in the following days. For royal watchers and protocol experts alike, it was an unprecedented moment, a clear and unmistakable sign of deep change within the royal family's inner circle. In the modern history of the British monarchy, no queen consort has ever faced such overt and unanimous disdain and disrespect. This brief moment echoed throughout Westminster Abbey like a resounding message. Although Camilla wore the grand crown upon her head, she was deemed unworthy of the reverence and status that the crown symbolized. Princess Catherine, seated in a prime central position at the coronation, maintained a cold, inscrutable expression. She neither smiled nor nodded nor showed any gesture of support or agreement toward Camilla, intensifying the palpable tension and deep divisions within the royal family. This event was not merely a dramatic moment in royal history, but also a clear reflection of the shifting power dynamics and strained relationships within the royal family at their most complex and tense stage. Although Camilla had attained the title and status she long desired, she faced isolation and suspicion from those closest to her, raising profound questions about the future of the monarchy and the cohesion of the royal household. For a woman renowned for her calm demeanor and subtle diplomatic skills like Camilla, receiving no support during such a pivotal moment spoke volumes about the complex dynamics within the royal family. Even Prince Harry, who has had his share of disagreements with the family but has consistently shown a special concern for his stepmother, could not hide his evident discomfort. Insiders reveal that he felt deeply disappointed and powerless, witnessing the public rejection and humiliation of Camilla in such a glaring manner. It wasn't just Harry. The palace staff quickly moved into damage control mode to mitigate the impact this event had on the royal family's image. In the days that followed, the palace's press and media teams worked tirelessly late into the night, striving to minimize the spread of negative news about the coldness and rejection directed at Camilla. Official photographs were carefully selected, focusing closely on King Charles to avoid revealing the silent tension and lack of friendly gestures within the crowd as Camilla made her way through. Yet in Prince William's eyes, that moment was not just a temporary setback for his stepmother. It was a clear demonstration of a profound shift in power underway. The guest list was not merely a planning oversight, it was a sign of a calculated and sophisticated power play. Camilla's approach to building her influence became unmistakably clear to everyone. She prioritized personal loyalty over long-standing tradition and appeared determined to reshape the monarchy's structure to serve her own image and authority. In response, William, as heir to the throne and the real power behind the scenes, pushed back just as forcefully. If Camilla could remove influential figures from within the institution, then he too had the right to exclude those she relied on. The Windsor Charity Gala became the testing ground for Prince William's strategy. Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, who had once proudly sat in a seat of honor at the coronation, was the first name to be struck from the guest list. The coronation, a momentous event symbolizing the ascent of a new king and queen, not only celebrated tradition and power, but also exposed the deep cracks within the House of Windsor. The fallout from that day has not yet settled, and the conflict is only beginning to unfold. While William chose to act publicly and decisively, Camilla's response unfolded privately, quiet and solitary, behind the closed doors of the palace. The moment Tom was denied entry to Windsor became her emotional breaking point, a moment that, according to long-serving palace staff, was unlike anything they had ever witnessed from her. Camilla, a woman renowned for her composure and unshakable resilience, now found herself confronting a profound and unexpected pain, one she could no longer conceal. According to sources within the royal household, Camilla learned of her son's rejection while she was still welcoming guests inside the castle. A private aide discreetly whispered the news to her during a brief pause between official photographs. Her face momentarily turned pale, but she maintained absolute composure. The cameras were still rolling, and officials and guests were watching her every move. There was no room for any visible reaction. The role of a senior royal demands endurance, and in that moment Camilla embodied it flawlessly. For the next 3 hours, Camilla performed like a seasoned artist, each gesture delivered with precision and grace, as if rehearsed countless times before. She smiled at reporters, exchanged polite conversation with wealthy patrons, and spoke confidently about charitable causes without a single misstep. Yet those closest to her noticed the deep tension behind the polished facade. They saw the subtle tremble in her hand as she held her wine glass and caught her glancing repeatedly toward the entrance, as if silently hoping her son might still walk through that door. The emotional weight, the loneliness, and the growing sense of betrayal swelled within Camilla. A woman who had weathered countless storms in royal life, yet had never faced such a public rejection from someone so close. This wasn't just a heartbreaking moment. It marked the beginning of a far more turbulent chapter ahead, where power, loyalty, and personal conflict would continue to fracture the delicate fabric of the royal family from within. If you enjoyed this story and want to learn more, don't forget to share the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exciting videos. Now, let's continue the story together. It wasn't until she returned to Clarence's house that Camilla's resilient facade finally crumbled. Those closest to her recall that after a night filled with pressure and suppressed emotion, the woman known for her steely composure broke down in tears. But these were not ordinary tears. They marked a profound rupture, a moment of reckoning, in which she confronted the limits of her place and power, long hidden beneath years of control and diplomacy. This breakdown served as a sobering wake-up call to a harsh truth. No matter how much she had endured or how hard she had tried, power and acceptance within the royal family would never come easily or without a cost. Camilla is no stranger to rejection and struggle. In the years following Princess Diana's death, she endured relentless public and media scrutiny. Unfair comparisons and skeptical glances haunted her for decades. Yet she remained patient, slowly rebuilding her image through humility, dedication, and consistent charitable work. Her battles were waged in headlines and opinion columns, not within the walls of the royal household. But this time, the conflict was closer, more personal, and far harder to withstand. This time it was different. The pain Camilla endured didn't come from the press or the public, but from within the palace walls, from those she once believed would stand by her side. That made the wound far deeper and far more personal. This wasn't simply about being excluded from a guest list or overlooked at an event. It was a quiet, devastating rejection from the very family she had worked so hard to belong to. For years, Camilla had made a conscious effort to shield her children Tom and Laura from the chaos and political undercurrents of royal life. She wanted them to lead normal lives, to build careers away from the spotlight and the heavy expectations that came with her role. But now, with Tom quietly turned away from Windsor's gates, all those efforts seemed heartbreakingly undone. Yet, with a single decision by Prince William, all of those carefully drawn boundaries were shattered. Camilla's son was no longer a protected figure. Quietly standing outside the royal spotlight, he had been pulled straight into the heart of a ruthless power struggle. Tom became a pawn, a symbol used by William to assert his authority and position within the monarchy, regardless of personal relationships or family ties. This wasn't just a simple rejection. It was a calculated move to dismantle the subtle influence Camilla had been trying to build within the palace walls. And more than that, it sent a chilling message: no one, not even her children, was immune to the brutal politics of royal life. The next morning, as everyone in the palace began their day, Camilla was seen sitting alone in a private sitting room. She quietly gazed at old family photos, moments she once felt proud of and protected by. She had always valued her role as a mother and grandmother. These were her emotional anchors that helped her stay strong through storms and skeptical gazes. But now that sense of protection had completely vanished. She realized that despite her title and crown, she could not shield her son from the pain and rejection coming from those closest to her. The emotional pain Camilla endured was deep and difficult to put into words. It was not a loud, overwhelming agony, but a quiet sorrow that seeped into the very depths of her heart, leaving scars that might stay with her for life. Although her title and status allowed her to stand proudly before the public inside, she bore a loneliness and hurt that only those closest to her could truly understand. This is another complex facet of royal life, where outward glory does not guarantee peace within the soul. Those close royal observers and media insiders alike have noted a striking change in how Camilla presents herself since the tense event at Windsor Castle. Her posture, once erect, majestic, and full of confidence, has softened, revealing signs of fatigue and unmistakable emotional strain. The familiar smile, which used to appear naturally and quickly, now takes much longer to surface on her lips. In official photos released to the press, this change is unmistakable. The Queen no longer exudes an untouchable, almost ethereal presence. Instead, she appears as a woman carrying deep-seated sorrow, her eyes reflecting both hurt and exhaustion. Behind the scenes, Camilla did not sit idly by and let things drift away. She quietly made efforts to mend the increasingly fractured relationships, striving to preserve the last threads of connection with her family and influential figures within the palace. Insider sources reveal that she sent multiple requests for private meetings with Prince William, hoping to ease the tensions between them. However, all these requests were declined despite being communicated politely, tactfully, and through intermediaries to avoid public confrontation. Palace insiders were told that William was busy with numerous official engagements, but keen observers recognized this as a subtle way of refusal, a deeper, meaningful rejection. The truth is, William is orchestrating a comprehensive restructuring of power within the royal family. He is not merely drawing new boundaries for Camilla, but redrawing the entire power map, reestablishing the order and roles of the royal family members. Although Camilla may still wear the crown and carry out her assigned duties, her power is now clearly limited. She no longer holds the authority to shape the rules or terms within the monarchy as she once did. This marks a significant turning point not only in Camilla's personal power, but also in how the monarchy operates, moving toward a more modern yet potentially harsher system. Perhaps the deepest wound for Camilla did not come from Prince William, the powerful and resolute son, but from her own husband, King Charles. While Charles may have offered private words of comfort to his wife, he chose to remain silent in front of the public and the media. There was no official statement expressing support for Camilla, nor any move to challenge the authority or decisions of his influential son. This silence left Camilla caught in the middle, isolated between two dominant forces, her husband and her son. Charles, both as a husband and as a monarch, found himself entangled in the invisible pressures of the crown and the need to preserve the image of the monarchy. He chose caution, opting not to escalate internal tensions, but in doing so, he unintentionally left Camilla to face the storm of power struggles and isolation alone. This sense of isolation was not merely a personal emotion. It also reflected a profound shift in the royal family's power structure. Future historians and royal experts may well look back on this as a pivotal moment not only in Camilla's personal journey, but in the broader power dynamics reshaping the modern British monarchy. She had come a long way from being an outsider, often underestimated and criticized, to reaching the highest ranks of one of the most exclusive and tradition-bound institutions in the country. Yet at that peak, she encountered unexpected rules that could not easily be rewritten and a complex power struggle she may never have imagined she would be drawn into. These limitations and challenges have not only forced Camilla to reconsider how she operates within the royal family, but have also compelled her to reflect deeply on her place, power, and influence in an environment where loyalty, tradition, and authority are strictly guarded and meticulously managed. Now, Camilla must adapt to a new reality, one in which her presence and influence are no longer absolute, but increasingly regulated by a complex and shifting power structure. The crown Camilla fought so hard to wear now comes with a heavy price she is only beginning to fully grasp. It's not just the pressure of lacking public support or the emotional wounds she carries, it's also the financial blows she never anticipated. Prince William's quiet campaign to restructure power within the royal family is far from over, and his next moves are likely to be even more profound, possibly targeting those closest to Camilla directly. The financial loss, a facet few would think of, was one of the most devastating blows Queen Camilla had to endure enough to shake her usually composed demeanor. The tears that fell down her face were not only for the public humiliation her son, Tom Parker Bowles, suffered at Windsor Castle, but also for a reality that was becoming increasingly clear. The ties between her family and the monarchy were slowly being severed, each decision cutting deeper into bonds that once seemed unbreakable. For nearly 2 decades, Camilla's sister Annabel Elliot held a coveted position that many interior designers could only dream of. Thanks to her close ties with the royal family, she was entrusted with redesigning and renovating several key properties belonging to the Duchy of Cornwall, from luxurious holiday homes in Cornwall to sprawling estates in Wales, as well as historic residences scattered across the Scilly Isles. This job wasn't just a prestigious career, it also came with a very generous paycheck. In her final year, working under King Charles, Annabel Elliot was reportedly paid a design fee of up to $25,000, a significant amount in any profession. And that's not even including the large budget she managed for purchasing high-end furniture and luxury furnishings, which totaled more than $155,000 in a single year. For nearly 2 decades, Annabel's work had been an inseparable part of the Duchy of Cornwall's operations, with regular payments flowing from the Duke's official accounts directly into her personal ones. However, all of that changed abruptly when Prince William officially took over control of the Duchy of Cornwall. According to the 2024 annual financial report of the Duke, Annabel Elliot has not received any payments since William took over. The termination of these financial supports is not only a clear signal of the shift in power, but also serves as a warning to Camilla's family that they are no longer favored or granted privileges within the royal operations. This is not simply a financial purge, but a powerful blow to the long-standing influence that Camilla's family once held within the royal inner circle. It marks a profound change in the financial management policies and internal power dynamics of the duchy, while also delivering a significant emotional shock to Camilla, who has always valued family unity and respect for tradition. This financial consequence, along with the escalating power tensions and increasing isolation, made Queen Camilla realize that winning the crown was only the beginning of a much longer and more challenging struggle. The battle was not just about titles, power, or public image, but about real survival and influence within the heart and machinery of the royal family, something she once believed belonged to her. And while Camilla was gradually coming to terms with this reality, Prince William continued to take steady steps forward, asserting his power and solidifying the position of the younger generation in the future of the monarchy. After 2 decades of close association, Annabel Elliott's name has now completely disappeared from the official records of the Duchy of Cornwall. The termination of her contract happened quietly, without any ceremony or formal announcement. Insider sources from within the palace revealed that the explanation given during private meetings was simply that the duchy's management team felt they had learned enough from Annabel's tenure and no longer needed to continue using her services. The reason presented was framed as a modernization decision aimed at developing and restructuring the internal operations, which sounded reasonable but came across as rather hollow to those familiar with the inner workings of the British royal family. In reality, for many within the palace, this move carried a very clear undertone. It was a personal decision, part of a broader plan by Prince William to gradually eliminate the influence of Camilla's family within the royal establishment. The financial cost of terminating this contract was only a small part of the bigger picture. Design and renovation work within the Duchy of Cornwall has always been a stable, high-return investment. Instead, the greater significance lay in its symbolism. Annabel's departure wasn't just a financial or professional loss, it marked a clear separation in terms of power and influence. To the keen observer, this was an unmistakable sign that Prince William was steadily disentangling the power of the crown from Camilla's family while simultaneously asserting his own independence and position within the monarchy. What made this shift all the more painful was its timing. Just a few months earlier, Annabel had stood beside Camilla at the coronation dressed in traditional attire and photographed as an integral part of the royal inner circle. The close and enduring bond between the two sisters was once publicly displayed from Westminster Abbey to the royal boxes at major events like Wimbledon. Those images of acceptance and unity were long seen as a symbol of the firm standing of Camilla's family within the royal circle. But now everything that was so carefully built seems to be unraveling, leaving behind deep emotional scars. Those inside the palace described Camilla's reaction as deeply emotional and heartbreaking. The pain wasn't merely over the loss of her beloved sister's livelihood, but over the broader implications of what the event represented. Every terminated contract, every name quietly removed from guest lists, every familiar role that vanished without notice, all served as painful reminders of a future in which the presence and influence of Camilla's family within royal life are gradually being diminished. To many observers, Prince William's actions are not seen as isolated cutbacks, but rather as part of a deliberate strategy, a carefully planned restructuring of the inner circle of power within the monarchy. Moves such as removing Tom Parker Bowles from royal events or Annabel's quiet withdrawal from duchy projects appear to be systematically orchestrated. This stands in stark contrast to King Charles's approach during his reign. The king had made efforts to bring Camilla's family closer, offering opportunities and roles within the royal household to those close to her. However, under William's leadership, the lines of power are being drawn more clearly and firmly. The influence of Camilla's extended family within royal affairs is being significantly limited, and it appears that there is little room left for the personal relationships and informal ties that once played a prominent role. These changes signal the beginning of a new era within the House of Windsor, one where power and influence are being redefined, with Prince William actively consolidating his position and reshaping the royal structure according to the vision of the next generation. While Camilla still holds the title of Queen Consort, her actual standing within the royal institution is being more deeply challenged than ever before. For Camilla, this shift was a shock she could hardly ignore. After decades of devoted service and contributions to royal affairs, the removal of Annabelle, her devoted sister and longtime collaborator, without any recognition or gratitude, cut deeply. Annabelle's expertise and dedication to royal projects, once highly regarded as a symbol of commitment, were now dismissed with a single, cold stroke. The financial loss was real and undeniable, but even more painful was the unspoken message it sent her family's contributions and position were being gradually erased from the power structure. However, those close to Queen Camilla say that while this defeat may be bitter, it does not define her character or willpower. Camilla has weathered many storms, from intense public scrutiny and harsh backlash to deeply personal losses. Yet she has steadily rebuilt her image and gradually earned her place within this unforgiving power structure. If Prince William believes that tightening financial control would silence her or make her abandon her resolve, then he is gravely mistaken. Queen Camilla has endured far greater challenges throughout her journey, and she is fully capable of proving that even when surrounded and pressured, her influence and standing cannot easily be erased or diminished. But in this tense power struggle, there remains one man who holds the final authority to end or prolong the conflict: King Charles. As reports of his wife's quiet tears and his son William's harsh financial decisions reached the king, Charles found himself in an excruciating dilemma, caught between the two most important figures in his life and in the future of the monarchy: his longtime companion Camilla and his heir to the throne, William. What began as a private family tension had quickly escalated into a full-blown crisis, threatening the unity and stability of the monarchy itself. Charles, a man who had spent his entire life preparing to wear the crown with dignity and a deep sense of duty, now faced a moment for which no training or tradition could prepare him. For the first time, he was not just a monarch tasked with upholding a 1,000-year-old institution, but a husband and a father forced to confront the most painful and personal decision of his reign. On one side stood Camilla, his steadfast life partner, who had stood by him through countless hardships over the years, now facing the unsettling erosion of her place within the institution she had tirelessly fought to be accepted in. On the other stood William, the ambitious heir, determined to restructure the power dynamics within the House of Windsor on his own terms, challenging long-held traditions and established relationships. This crisis is not merely a personal story of a royal family, but a major test of the resilience and adaptability of the monarchy in the modern era. Charles's choice will shape not only the future of his wife, but also the fate of an entire dynasty. Whose side will the king take? Can he reconcile these deep divisions to keep the House of Windsor united, or will the power struggle continue to fracture the institution he has worked so hard to build? As the world watches every move of the British royal family, the answer remains uncertain, and the pressure mounts ever more heavily on the shoulders of the monarch. On the other side was William, his son, and heir, steadfast and unwavering in his belief that preserving the monarchy today meant reshaping it, even if that meant dismantling what Charles and Camilla had built together over the years. Aware of the depth of the crisis and its weight on the dynasty's future, The king acted swiftly. Within less than 48 hours after the scandal at the Windsor charity event, Charles summoned both William and Camilla to his private study at Clarence House. This was not a gentle family gathering over afternoon tea, but an urgent summit with a clear objective to prevent a crisis that threatened to shatter the carefully built and nurtured image of royal unity cultivated over many years. Those within the palace described the atmosphere in the study as a tense, silent battle. Charles, long known for his measured leadership style favoring dialogue over confrontation, was now forced to stand as an intermediary between two determined yet opposing forces. William entered the room with the calm confidence of a man certain he was defending the throne and the future of the monarchy at all costs. Meanwhile, Camilla walked in bearing the silent pain of a woman who had sacrificed her personal dignity for public duty, only to see her family's status and honor strategically and deliberately dismantled. The meeting lasted over 3 tense hours, much longer than anyone had anticipated, reflecting the complexity and gravity of the conversation unfolding within. Behind closed doors, Charles had to draw on all his diplomatic skills, the very tools that had shaped his public life and career to steer the meeting. He acknowledged William's legitimate concerns about modernizing and streamlining the monarchy, while also recognizing the pain Camilla was enduring, her sister being cut off from royal accounts, her son publicly slighted and hurt. With a gentle but firm tone, Charles emphasized that despite their differences, both of them remained indispensable pillars of the institution they were collectively responsible for. He made it clear that the monarchy cannot survive on tradition alone, nor can it function amid personal conflicts. Its true strength, especially in the modern era, lies in unity. But this unity doesn't necessarily mean emotional harmony. Rather, it's about cohesion in public perception and coordinated action. If the public begins to sense deep divisions within the royal household, the institution will suffer serious and unpredictable damage. Charles did not take sides in this conflict, knowing that he didn't have to. His strategy was to transform what seemed like a mere family dispute into a shared responsibility, a collective duty for the survival and prosperity of the entire dynasty. The coronation had officially placed him at the helm of one of the oldest and most powerful institutions in the world, but it also made William his future, and Camilla his present. Their fates were now inextricably intertwined, whether they liked it or not. Immediately after the meeting, a carefully managed display of unity quickly unfolded. Within days, photos capturing Camilla and William standing side by side at public events were widely circulated. They shook hands with sponsors, exchanged polite pleasantries, and even shared gentle smiles with each other. Every moment was meticulously calibrated to convey a clear and powerful message: the royal family remains strong, focused, and working in harmony. That message, though meticulously crafted and polished, could not fully mask the underlying tensions. It was merely a thin veneer over a deep-rooted power struggle, where conflicts and differences smoldered quietly, waiting for the right moment to either erupt or be resolved once and for all. Yet at least for now, Charles succeeded in keeping that fire from blazing openly before the public, creating a unified image of the royal family for the world to see. However, those within the palace were not easily deceived by this display. The reconciliation shown was merely superficial, lacking genuine emotional foundation. Behind the flawless facade and carefully orchestrated performance, the relationship between William and Camilla remained tense, fragile, and marked by unbridgeable gaps. Ultimately, Camilla came to recognize the true limits of her influence within these power structures. Meanwhile, William, with his shrewdness and subtlety, continued to gradually phase out Camilla's family from royal affairs, not through dramatic or noisy actions, but through small, quiet decisions made behind the closed doors of the palace. Nevertheless, Charles achieved the goal he needed. The crisis was contained, and the royal brand remained intact in the eyes of the public. However, this also meant that a new internal arrangement had been established, a balance of power that was more political than personal. The Windsor family no longer operated as a tightly knit blood family, but increasingly resembled a coalition government with complex factions and alliances. Peace was maintained not through resolutions or agreements, but through a delicate, ongoing, and calculated dance. Royal watchers have begun to reflect with disappointment on the profound echoes of history. Queen Elizabeth II weathered countless inner storms: her children's divorces, Princess Margaret's rebellious years, and the early shocks of the turbulent era surrounding Princess Diana. Yet most of those upheavals were largely personal or related to reputation. What is unfolding now, however, is a strategic power struggle, one that does not play out in tabloids or headlines, but behind closed meeting rooms, financial budgets, and guest lists. Though Charles has tried to conceal these cracks, the foundation beneath remains under immense pressure. As the monarchy steps into a new era filled with challenges, a pressing question increasingly emerges with every balcony wave, press release, and official family photo: can the fractured relationship between the stepmother and her stepson truly be healed? What will happen when the crown of a king pulls him in one direction, but blood ties and family bonds pull him in another? If you find this story fascinating and want to dive deeper into the behind-the-scenes developments of the royal family, don't forget to like and share this video to support us. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel so you won't miss upcoming videos featuring unique perspectives and sharp analyses on royal events and other hot topics. Thank you for watching until the end, and we look forward to seeing you in the next videos.